Hey guys, it's Alex and Dan from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around when we did a modern episode, it was Mummy on the Orient Express.
Okay. Yeah, and I always complained about the fact that I was expecting the real Orient Express, but it turned out to be the Orient Express in space. But it was a very good episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. This time around, we are moving on to the 13th Doctor.
I've never seen one of her episodes.
Right. So, this is Series 11, Episode 6, Demons of the Punjab, which is specifically one of her historical episodes, because that's kind of where she excels the most. So, and this is probably one of my favorites of her episodes. So yeah, you haven't seen anything of the 13th Doctor. Do you have any, ideas of where this might be going?
No idea whatsoever. I mean, I had seen a couple of episodes of David Tennant and Matt Smith on PBS here. I'd never seen Eccleston before. Never seen anything about Capaldi, other than he was supposed to have a Scottish accent, which I didn't really notice all that much in Mummy on the Orient Express. And I've heard literally nothing about Jodie Foster. Not Jodie Foster.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
That's okay.
Jodie Foster as Doctor Who. That would be interesting. Hello, Doctor.
Yeah, so yeah. I guess, okay, we should have context going into this, like I always do. So, currently, the Doctor is traveling with 3 companions. There's Yasmin Khan. She's a police officer, but you would be forgiven for forgetting about that, because they don't bring it up too often. There's a young man named Ryan and his step-grandfather Graham, and they are all joining the Doctor on these new adventures.
Now, where did she pick each of them up?
She picked up all 3 of them at the same time in Sheffield. There was an alien who wanted to conquer the world, and it was right after she regenerated, and she picked them all up. And actually, they also had Ryan's grandmother there, but she ended up dying in the process. So yeah, and we are 6 episodes into Jodie Whittaker's first season.
Okay.
So, other than that, I don't think there's really too much other context for us to talk about. And obviously, it doesn't really matter bringing up Mummy on the Orient Express, because that has no ties to this at all. So, completely new companions, new everything. Yeah, I guess that's basically it. So we might as well just jump right into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
The first woman married in Pakistan, did you know this?
And I was the first Muslim woman to work in a textile mill in South Yorkshire.
Grandad taking you dancing every Wednesday night.
Sonia, this is the present your grandfather
First woman married in Pakistan, would that be like 1948-49 when Pakistan and India separated?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
I know what you're asking, but family history and time travel? Very tricky. Just for an hour. See you from a distance. What's the point in having a mate with a time machine if you can't nip back and see your gran when she were younger? Too unpredictable.
Could what?
It's a risk.
Oh, like none of our other trips have ever been risky.
I have apologised for the Death Eye Turtle Army. Profusely. What do you two reckon?
Oh, yeah, love it. Pakistan, never been there before. Another one off the bucket list, as long as there's no killer turtles.
Yeah, I'm well up for it.
Is Killer Turtles actually something we've seen?
No. That's one of those stories they mention, but we don't see.
Okay.
Looks pretty northern Punjab.
Hey, get off the road!
Really sorry. Bit of a wobble.
A demonic wobble, but,
sure.
you know.
I'm surprised by her accent. Can't tell where that's from.
Think so. Probably. I don't know. Like I intercepted something in my brain.
Intercepted something in my brain. I like it, but I can't tell where it's from.
Yeah. I'm sure that's fine.
Now, I don't know where they filmed this, but that's doesn't appear to be in England because there were some snow-capped mountains in the background that did not look British Isles.
Yeah.
How are they?
Your family hungry?
I remember there was... I think in a previous episode they went to Montgomery, Alabama, but I think they actually filmed it in, like, South Africa. So...
Remember me? Car, flowers, marrying Umbrian?
No. You can't be. You're not my wedding in the Punjab. Bring it on. Anyway, just wanted to convey our best wishes. And then head off.
Hi, I thought I saw some people in the cart. Sorry about his driving. My baby brother thinks he can do everything better than me.
What's happening?
Everyone's waiting for the announcement, but I've got advanced information.
You know, it's always interesting when the Doctor tries to get away from a situation.
Today, India's officially cut into pieces.
It's the 17th of August.
And still you want to go ahead?
Nothing changes, Mum. We knew this was coming.
Sorry, don't mean to sound stupid. What year is it exactly?
Same year you have in England. 1947.
Partition. We're in the middle of the partition of India.
3,
Yep,
2,
well, you were right.
Your sources must be wrong because you've just put my house in Pakistan.
with the other Muslims. What? You get a fresh start.
Manish, you need to slow down.
Pakistan is somewhere for Muslims if they want to go.
I'm not saying you have to go, but Pakistan is being created for Muslims.
It's gone.
Not far. We'll deal with this. Come on.
This is not a good day for aliens to show up.
Asna already thinks the marriage is cursed. Umbreen doesn't need anything else to worry about, and Manish, who knows what he thinks these days? I was away from him for too long, fighting in the war. By the time I got back, Manish wasn't my baby brother anymore.
Be careful what you say back there. The wrong word in the wrong moment. You could interfere yourself out of existence. Do you understand? You know there are aliens here, right? In the Punjab during partition, and you're worried about me being gobby? Tread softly. You're treading on your own history. Seems like a transmat doorway.
Nice. That was cool.
Thanks, Ryan.
Just happened.
This is a Thajarian hive.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Thajarians are assassins.
Right. So that's basically a bad thing then.
I've heard about them, never come across them. They're one of the ancient species, evolved themselves into the deadliest assassins in the known universe.
Unlike the Hashashins.
No, yeah.
He was their target.
Why though?
I don't know what to do. Bhakti had agreed to marry us. Not many would agree to a Hindu marrying a Muslim right now.
Then you can't go ahead with marrying Prem.
You think I give up that easily? I've seen war take our young, and drought take our old and weak. Now men without a clue are imposing a border like a crack through my country. Prem is the one certain thing in my life.
I thought I knew Manan's story. She inspired me. If this is true, if this is her life, then she lied to me.
Yeah, but maybe she just didn't want to tell you everything, you know. Woman's allowed to have secrets, even from her granddaughter.
So what she said was true, from a certain point of view.
And I honestly don't know whether any of us know the real truth of our own lives. Because we're too busy living them from the inside. So just enjoy it, yes. Live this moment. And figure it out later.
It's interesting how they say nobody knows, I mean, even just their true lives. I think that's a little bit of foreshadowing for later seasons. I remember I saw someone say that the 13th Doctor runs like Phoebe on Friends.
We don't answer to you. You must leave, or we will stand over your corpses.
I didn't realize how crazy their design is.
it me?
Still not interfering, are we? Oi! The alien assassins started it. We can't leave now. If something happens to Umbreen, your whole timeline could be erased. No Yaz! We can't have a universe with no Yaz! Now, whatever's in here.
I mean, it's basically
Tell us more.
how the Doctor works. They started it.
I need oil, water, tree bark, a saucepan, 9 containers, an old newspaper, a touch of oxpit, a chicken poo, and a biscuit.
Why is he not chicken poo?
Why a biscuit?
I love biscuits.
Like jelly beans.
Well,
I am never, ever getting spit from an ox ever again, no matter how much you need it.
The ox took a bit of a shine to him.
I love when the doctor makes these ridiculous contraptions.
So what is it then? Science. Should break the sample
That's
down,
specific.
give us more information. This is the best thing ever. Never did this when I was a man.
Doctor, you and your jokes. You don't even have a priest. What sort of respectable wedding will it be?
Wait, you're a doctor, right? That's respectable. You could marry us.
Don't be ridiculous.
I suppose I could. No, doctor. I haven't officiated a wedding since Einstein's. His parents didn't approve either. Non-denominational, though. You're on.
Thought we were not getting involved.
Only a teensy bit.
She's tempted by everything.
Think he's lost his mind.
Hey, mate, not on his stag night. You'll have to forgive him. Spends too much time reading pamphlets, listening to angry men on the radio.
India's a home to all of us. We didn't change when a line was drawn.
But we did. I need air.
You know, normally the one that goes off to war is the one that changes, not the other way around.
This dust is the densest organic material you can imagine. It's sort of everything. Carbon, phosphorus, oxygen, nitrogen,
People.
sulfur, calcium. Billions of DNA fragments.
We honor the lost as we cannot honor our own.
No.
This is all that remains of our home, our people. And now we travel beyond, seeking the unacknowledged dead across all of time and space. This is now the Thajarian mission, to bear witness to those alone.
That's what Prem saw you do to Kunal. What you were doing to the holy man. But why here? Why now?
Millions will perish, unseen, unknown in the days to come here.
The casualties of partition.
His time is soon.
Umbreen loses her husband on the day she marries. Of course, she never wants to talk about it.
I'm sorry, Yaz. We should leave.
No.
So how should she have a granddaughter if she
Whatever happens, I want to look after my
Takes another husband later.
Ordinary people who've lived here all their lives, whipped into a frenzy to be part of a mob. Nothing worse than when normal people lose their minds. We've lived together for decades. Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh. And now we're being told our differences are more important than what unites us. Like we learned nothing in the war. All we can strive to be is good men. And you, Prem, are a good man.
This is the spot you choose?
I'm going to be the first woman married in Pakistan.
Of course you are.
I know there aren't many certainties in any of our lives. But Umbreen, Prem, what I see in you is the certainty you have in each other. Something I believe in my faith. Love, in all its forms, is the most powerful weapon we have.
The drought was nearly the end of us. But we get to have this day because of Manish. You were tireless. I am proud to have been your neighbor. But I'm even prouder now to call you my brother.
I didn't work this land for you, Umbreen. I worked it for my brothers. One who didn't come back, and the other I wish hadn't.
Enough, Manish.
No. Look at you all. Don't you understand what's coming? None of this will make a difference.
Prem.
I'm sorry.
Ghost.
It's fine. It's perfect. This is us, forever. Our moment in time.
It's not the most durable watch in the world.
It's a Sheffield marked on here.
My dad brought that map home from the market one day. One night I said, I'll put my finger on this map, and wherever it lands, I'm going to go.
And you landed on Sheffield?
Such an exotic word. It's in England. Do you know it?
Stop talking, we have to leave!
You as well?
I'll come with you.
No. These are demons I have to face alone. I know what you did to the holy man.
There's nothing holy about a man who would approve your union. Better he die than defile himself.
My baby brother. What happened to you?
We are your people, Prem. India's your country. You and Kunal fought for this.
This is not what I fought for.
We will watch over him now.
She made it out, right? She got to Lahore. She lived. She made it.
I mean, you're not fading away, so...
I can't even begin to imagine what you've dealt with. Then you end up in Sheffield, of all places.
I love Sheffield.
Really?
Well, not quite as exotic as I thought it would be, but it gave us stability, a life, a home.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's anything exotic in England.
And it gave me your mum. You want to know about the watch?
No. Tell me another time. I love you, Nanny.
And I love you too, Betty.
Alrighty. Wow.
Certainly a lot deeper than
that
most of the stuff we've seen.
Yes, definitely. So, that, it honestly is probably one of the 13th Doctor's best episodes. Yeah. So, I will say, yes, it's not exactly lighthearted or anything like even Mummy on the Orient Express was. But definitely a brilliant episode.
Yeah.
So,
very well written, and again, that was just a horrible time.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it was expected, and yet it didn't turn out the way most people had hoped it would. Turned out the way that a lot of people thought it would, but they were certainly not thinking that millions of people were going to die.
Yeah. So, I guess we can just start off. What did you think of... Well, I guess we can start with the cast. Let's start with the 13th Doctor herself.
I liked her. I mean, she was, again, very much in the tradition of the Tom Baker. Kind of can play very serious, but obviously has a, humorous side.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely much more than the ones that we've seen so far. As far as the classic Doctors. Hartnell really had no comic side. I mean, he was very intent on playing the Doctor as a very irascible old man, and very rarely showed any glimpses of humor.
Yeah.
And again, we've seen one or two episodes of each of the others, but I like the progression. Going from Eccleston to Tennant and Smith, and then Capaldi and now her. It all makes perfect sense to me. I mean, basically it's like, I hate to use the image of a diamond, but we're just seeing different facets of it. It's all the same. You're just looking at it from different angles.
Right. I mean, that's sort of the interesting thing looking back. I mean, you've only seen 5 episodes of the modern Doctors, one each, well, plus the 50th and everything. But it's interesting to see because you have the 9th Doctor, who's kind of like the PTSD from the Ward Doctor.
Yeah.
And then after him, you get a more lighthearted Doctor with the 10th Doctor and everything. Then from him, it goes even goofier with the 11th Doctor, but still in a good way. So that it's like, okay, he kind of gets to his peak, and then it's like, okay, he needs to do a switch around. You get the 12th Doctor, who's a lot more, grumpy and stuff, but eventually sort of he'll get this kind heart, leading into the 13th Doctor, who is sort of a more return to form on. And one thing people note about the 13th Doctor is that she kind of is the first of the modern Doctors to get over the sort of angst about the Time War. Like, that is sort of a continuing thing, even with the 11th and 12th Doctors, even though it's played down a lot more, there is still a little bit of that, the sort of the war veteran, either the 11th Doctor, who really tries to get away from it, or the 12th Doctor, who just, is sort of the older war veteran. But they really don't play that up with the 13th Doctor at all.
And again, I mentioned that one of the things that I loved about Eccleston was his accent.
Yes.
Up north. And again, I've heard Jodie Whittaker's accent, the entire time I was in England, but I can't place it. It may just be, middle class or lower class London somewhere, but I love it. And I would love to be able to play a role like that sometime. I've mentioned before that I would like to do one of the Shakespearean characters, Dogberry, like with the Liverpool accent, like John Paul, George, and Ringo. But yeah, that accent, it's not Cockney, it's not Alfred P. Doolittle from My Fair Lady, but it's certainly not the upper class that you hear with Tennant and Matt Smith, and even the one episode that I saw with Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the fact that she seems a working class Doctor.
Yeah, which people also said that was kind of what Eccleston was going for. Was he was just sort of like, oh, here's this bloke who's also the Doctor, and so you can kind of see that. I feel like with like 10, 11, and 12, they go more to the more fantastical side of the Doctor, where 9 and 13 here do kind of keep it more down to earth. They're just sort of this eccentric person basically. So yeah, and because you brought up the Liverpool accent, that does remind me, one of the newer companions to the 13th Doctor is played by a comedian named John Bishop, who is from Liverpool, so they set that season basically in Liverpool so that they could go pick him up. And he was actually on a talk show where he was talking about how he accidentally spoiled that his character is from Liverpool, and he slightly got in trouble because he revealed something about Doctor Who, but he said, well, where do you think I'm from? It's like, as long as, like, he was basically like, look, I can act as long as the character looks and sounds a lot like me. Of course this character's from Liverpool. So, but yeah, I remember, because I questioned what her accent was when I started out. I don't remember what people said. I think they said something a bit more northern England. So I think that's what people said. I don't remember. So what do you think of her 3 companions?
Well, probably no surprise. I kind of like the old man best.
Yeah, well, everyone likes Graham the best.
The young man didn't seem to have a whole lot to do in this episode.
Yeah. Ryan's kind of the one who's there and doesn't do a ton. Like, of the 3 of them, like, he does stuff occasionally, but for the most part, he's not, I guess, the most useful companion we've ever had.
He's not the muscle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So,
like Stephen was, or even Ian for that matter.
Yeah. And then this episode obviously puts a lot more focus on Yaz.
But even that, she was more of a witness. And see, that's the thing. I thought the old man interacted with the people in the past way more than the 2 younger ones did, which is one of the reasons I thought not that he was acting any better than the other 2, but he seemed to be more engaged. The writers gave him more to do.
Yeah, definitely. And it is interesting because they kind of start to go into like when Yaz says, oh, well, I guess you can't marry Prem today. And you can kind of see like she's kind of trying to twist it so that, eventually Umbreen will go and find her grandfather. But that is still going against the established timeline, but they don't do too much of that. Yeah. Just pretty much right after that is when she has the conversation with Graham about, you sort of, you live your life in the moment. You can't really see the broad picture of it all, So, so the interesting thing sort of the reason that I went with this episode is about 3 episodes earlier, they did an episode where they went back to Montgomery, Alabama, and met Rosa Parks. And it was actually a lot like this, but in that, there was an alien who was trying to stop Rosa Parks from, not giving up her seat and everything. He was trying to stop that, which would cause, ramifications throughout time.
Yeah.
And the reason I went with this one over that was because that alien villain he's kind of generic and kind of like, he's basically just a space racist. And he even had, because it was the 50s, he had like a leather jacket, like you just expect him to start combing his hair and stuff. And so it was a little too strange, but the rest of the episode with Rosa was really good. But I went with this one mainly because the Thajarians aren't involved, really. Yeah. They're mistaken for being involved, but they're not actually a part of it. Honestly, if you took them out, you could have done this entire story without them, and it still would have been a very interesting episode of just, Yaz realizing, wait, this isn't my grandfather, and they try to figure, and eventually they find out why Umbreen has to go and find a new husband. They could have done that, but I was thinking, if you have to absolutely put an alien in a historical episode, that's a pretty good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I thought it was very well written. And just as a note to the watchers, the viewers here, because you already know this, but the 4 years before I lived in England, I lived in Montgomery, Alabama, from 1959 to 1963, when George Wallace was the governor of Alabama and stood there in the doorway at the University of Alabama and said, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. So I grew up in that atmosphere. I would have been like 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in Montgomery, Alabama during that time. And then from there moved to England where, and I will have to say this, in my 12, 13, 14-year-old self, I thought the British people were way more enlightened than the people that I lived with in Montgomery, Alabama. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, if I had thought of that, maybe we should have watched the Rosa Parks episode. Would have been a blast from the past, I suppose.
Well, Rosa Parks was actually just a couple of years before we got there.
Oh yeah, that's true.
When that was happening, we were actually living in France. So I spent kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade living in France, out on the eastern side of France, right by the German border, a little town called Chaumont.
All right, so I did take down pretty decent notes, I think. And also, I actually checked ahead of time, but I believe my original notes are in this notebook from this episode. In fact, yes, they are. They're of no help, because they're just a bunch of random notes. But let's see. But the first thing I wrote down today was interference and stuff. So immediately, it's an interesting setup of the Doctor doesn't want to take them to this place specifically because it's Yaz's family, which is interesting. And I do like that when you get episodes where the Doctor is trying to get away specifically, because everything does sort of tempt the Doctor. She wants they always want to go see everything, but this time specifically, she's really trying not to. But I like that line. I was like, I'm too nice. I can't be doing this for you guys, So I did like that.
Now, again, in addition to everything else, I'd love to know where they filmed that, because it was the setting was just perfect. And again, I cannot imagine that was anywhere in the British Isles.
No, I don't think so. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. Let's see. Production. Spain, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, the province of Granada in Spain.
All right, Granada is on the east coast, I think. So again, that mountain in the background, though, that snow-covered mountain in the background, that's what kind of threw me off, because I don't think that's the Pyrenees. So I don't know, maybe they CG'd that in, because it would have to stand in for either the Hindu Kush or the Himalayas.
Yeah.
But whatever they did, it looked like it was in India right there on the Pakistani border.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and especially too because we're watching through classic Doctor Who, where if it's not like, oh, the thing crash landed just south of London, good for us. It's like, well, we have to dress this place up to make it look like that, and it's like, well, there's only so far you can get with that in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is just again fun watching because obviously earlier today we watched The Curse of Peladon. And not to say that looked bad or anything like that, but obviously, it does look like a show from the 70s. And then just watching that and then watching this with 2018 HD and all that stuff and the colors and everything is just very interesting to switch between. And the fact that technically it's all the same show.
Yeah.
So
now, one thing from earlier I didn't mention, the cliff climbing scene with Doctor and Joe there at Peladon, that was very well done.
Yeah.
Because I suspect that was not done outdoors. That was probably on an indoor set somewhere.
Yeah.
But the lighting and the wind and everything, that was very realistic looking. For 1970s.
Right.
But yeah, just to be able to shoot on a location like that where it really does look hot and dusty and dry. And that was very good.
Yeah, and pretty much that's where this entire episode took place. With the exception of going back to the TARDIS set and then the house in Sheffield. Yeah. Like that was all on location in Spain, which was pretty cool. So yeah, which I guess you didn't see much of it, but what did you think of the new TARDIS interior?
Again, that didn't see hardly anything except the console and then a little bit of the stuff on the floor. And it completely, again, dark, completely different from what I remember from the little flashes we saw of Capaldi. And now, of course, Smith, we saw the Doctor's wife, where, he literally rebuilt the interior of the TARDIS, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I don't think the TARDIS figured into the Eccleston episode because they were in the museum there in Dalek.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they showed the inside.
And then David Tennant was mostly in the Moon or the Mars base for Waters of Mars.
I think they showed a bit of the interior of Tennant's TARDIS in the 50th, but it was very, very brief. And it was that more sort of rustic, I guess almost coral-like design. Whereas this one, they did show it a bit at the end here.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Looking at it from above.
Yeah, and then the main thing is very much different, but just these sort of crystal pillars that come up around the central pillar and stuff. So
wasn't Capaldi's more industrial looking?
Yeah, definitely. It was more industrial, but also had like some bookshelves and stuff around it.
Now, when Capaldi regenerated into Jodie Whittaker, did the TARDIS change that episode, or did it evolve slowly after she took over?
Well, see, the way that they change the TARDIS, because they pretty much do change the TARDIS almost every time they change Doctors, and the way they do it is that the Doctor's regeneration is always explosive, and it blows up the inside of the TARDIS, so it repairs itself. So Capaldi regenerates, everything starts exploding, and Jodie Whittaker is thrown out of the TARDIS at the end of the episode. It disappears. Cut back about 2 episodes later, actually, she walks in, and it's all now nice and good. So that's generally how they get around it. So, and that's also now the running joke that the Doctor will never regenerate outside. They will always regenerate inside the TARDIS, which always causes damage, and the TARDIS always throws them out to try to fix everything.
Because Hartnell regenerated outside, and Troughton regenerated outside. He wasn't back in the TARDIS. He was there on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And of course, we haven't seen the regeneration for Pertwee yet.
Yeah. So, so let's see. So we had the partition, which was interesting, and the border and dividing it up. It is, it's almost like, I guess, poetically perfect for the story, that it's like, it's not just that this border is being drawn, it's right in between their houses specifically, on that river, which is interesting. But we had our villains of the episode being the demons or the Thijarians, which, now the thing is, with this season of Doctor Who, they made a point that they didn't want to bring anything back. There was all new aliens pretty much every episode. Absolutely nothing until the New Year special after the season, where they finally brought back the Daleks and then eventually brought back the Cybermen and everything. So everything in this season is new, including the Thajarians. But it's a very interesting story that they were these ancient assassins, basically, of the universe. But while they were all out being assassins, their home planet was destroyed.
Yeah.
And then they realized, oh my gosh, so many of our people died alone, and they completely changed their ways. So now they bear witness to those.
Yeah. And I'm not going to look at camera when I say this, but there have been people recently who say that we, and specifically I, don't get the metaphors in the titles, but Demons of the Punjab is definitely not just about the aliens, because the demons here are the people who cannot accept to have Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs live together like they had been living together for decades, sometimes for centuries, and insisted, no, it's now us versus them.
Right.
So, yes, that is very metaphorical, and we do understand that, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, even down to at the end when Prem says, I have to face these demons. I have to face my demons, basically. So, yes, it's very much, it's like, oh, the Thajarians, they're the demons. Nope. No, they are not. Yeah. So
we have met the enemy, and he is us.
Yeah. Let's see. I did like the talk that Yaz and Graham had about, living in the moment, and we can't really see, even, none of us really know the truth of our lives because we are so in the moment about it. And watching it now, it's very subtle, but I will say that does almost seem like sort of hidden foreshadowing for things that will happen later on in later seasons, where we start to learn new things about the Doctor. But honestly, in the moment of watching this the first time, I would not have guessed that it could be foreshadowing. So it's a really good speech in the moment. And honestly, that is something that Graham excels at in these episodes, is giving a good grandfatherly talk. So let's see.
But yeah, again, just to take a moment here, my life literally turned out the same way. When I graduated from high school, I was going to go to the University of Nebraska. I was going to be a history student, and I wanted to be a history teacher straight out of college. Last minute change. My dad didn't get stationed back in Nebraska. He went to Arizona, which is where I ended up at the University of Arizona. First couple of weeks that I was in the history department there at Arizona, I hated it. It was not at all like the classes I had in high school, and I was very depressed, and I went to see the counselor, and after going through, well, do you play sports? No, I gave that up in junior high school. Do you do this? Finally said, did you ever do any music or theater? And I said, well, I've been in the chorus, but I'm not a trained singer. I can't read music. And they said, did you ever do any plays? And I said, yeah, I did a couple of plays. And they said, well, why don't you go over to the theater department? It's like, wait a minute, you can actually get a degree in theater? And I've told you this story, multiple times. I went over to the theater department, and if you know theater people, inside of 10 minutes, I knew everybody in the department. Changed my major, graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater, and spent the next 25 years being an actor, director, and playwright. And only then, after after your brother was born, went back and said, you know what, although I'm enjoying theater, I would still like to see if I wanted to be a history teacher. So went back to UCO, where you graduated from, took a couple of classes to get a major in history, and have now spent 27 years as a history teacher. So you never know in the moment where your life is going to go.
Yeah, exactly. And it is also true for Umbreen here, where that, she has this whole thing sort of planned out, but then nope, just things happen, you lose Prem, and just eventually you do get to 2018, but you never would have planned how you got there.
Yeah.
And of course, that's sort of the story of every companion. You're just sort of going along, living your life. Suddenly this madman, or madwoman in this case, with a box drops out of the sky, and all right, I guess now you're doing this. So,
now, not to take up too much time, but why did Graham and Ryan and Yaz decide to go along with her?
Well, is like I said at the beginning, is that they were sort of caught up in this whole thing with this alien who was trying to invade Earth, and then after Ryan's grandmother died, the Doctor, originally the Doctor was just going to go on her way. She actually had to go find the TARDIS, and she accidentally took the three of them with her. And then after that, eventually they did get back to Sheffield, and it was going to be like, oh, well, I'll just drop you off. And then they decided, well, we've already had a couple, adventures with you. How about we stick around? And the Doctor was all too happy to let them join her. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I like. Well, first off, there was when they were doing the drawings and everything, and I do like the Doctor saying, "Wow, this is incredible. I never got to do any of this when I was a man." Like she has new experiences after these thousands and thousands of years, because she's always been a guy this whole time. Yeah. So I did like that. And then I also like, it's like, well, the holy man is dead, so who's going to officiate the wedding? You need someone respectable. And Umbreen realizes, wait a minute, you're a doctor. That's a respectable position. And it's a good thing it's not one of those times where the Doctor is like, well, I'm technically a doctor, I suppose. A doctor of things. So
cheese.
Yeah. Sometimes it's cheese. I remember there was one time with a Capaldi episode where his companion Clara was pretending to be the Doctor to someone, and someone was like, so what are you a doctor of? And he was like over the intercom, and he said, of lies. And so I just love every time it's anything but a medical doctor, basically.
Yeah. Although
technically they are.
Was it Troughton that said he was a medical doctor? Got his degree in Scotland.
Yeah,
in the late 1800s.
Yeah, definitely. So technically, yes, they are a medical doctor, but a doctor of everything, really. So
doctor of philosophy.
Yeah. So yeah, the Doctor officiating the wedding I thought was a good idea. And I will say, I mean, I don't know. See, I don't remember I should have looked at my comment section on the original video, but I know that modern Doctor Who can sometimes be criticized for being too woke and stuff like that, and I don't think any of that applies to any of the episodes, first of all, but it's interesting. Like, I don't remember anyone thinking like the writing, especially in this episode, was a little too on the nose, even though it kind of is a little on the nose when when Prem says, well, he spends all his time reading pamphlets and listening to angry men on the radio, and I'm just sitting here like, well, that's topical. Just the entire thing, even down to when he's talking about, we lived together for side by side for decades, and now suddenly, we can't do this anymore. Apparently we all hate each other, and it's like, this is unfortunately still topical.
Yeah.
So,
and probably even more so here in the United States than in Great Britain.
Yeah. So, which is also interesting because they sort of do that in the Rosa Parks episode, and in that episode, like I said, there's this basically future space racist who wants to, stop Rosa Parks in order to make sure that the black people never get anything good. It's not the greatest plot, but the rest of the episode is really good. But I remember someone actually commented on that episode, and they said, well, I mean, because in that episode, Rosa Parks doesn't know about the alien or anything. Like, history plays out for her exactly as it should. It's just that the Doctor and the gang are trying to get rid of this guy in the background. But someone said, like, well, what does it say that there's still, racism far in the future? Like, does that just mean, like, what Rosa Parks is doing, is useless or anything? And it's like, I don't think that's the point of the episode. Or her keeping that seed. It's like, I don't think when she, kept that seed, it was like, well, this is going to end racism. Like, well, no, that's not it. This will, unfortunately, probably keep going into the future, And it is sort of the same here, where it's like you're hearing this stuff that's happened at the partition, and you look at today, and it's like, well, has anything changed? And you think, well, technically, in a cosmic sort of way, no. In another way, yes, things have somewhat changed. Yeah. So,
But we've been fighting this stuff. I mean, racism goes all the way back. I mean, goes long before even the Roman Empire. Go back before that. The Old Testament, the Torah talks about, the racism between the various, not the tribes of Israel, but the tribes of Israel and their opponents, like the Amalekites and some of those others. Just you must think of these people as lesser people, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, yes, but as Dr. King said, the arc of history does bend towards freedom, even though it does so very slowly. I know I'm horribly misquoting that, but it will it'll take eons. It may take another 1,000 years, but at some point we will begin to understand just how toxic racism is.
Yeah, it does also remind me, and this is slightly stupid, but I was watching a video. I don't know how the topic got onto this, but they were talking about just human conflict and everything. And one of them said, I think human conflict has been a thing ever since the first person looked at another person and said, wait a minute, you're not me. And then they started killing each other. And honestly, that does sort of boil down all of humanity's problems since the beginning is just, wait, you're not me. So, and then we had the wedding, which I did like, everything of, mixing the traditions and everything. Yeah. I thought that was really good. And honestly, I mean, I will say, like, maybe the last, 20 minutes, we didn't say anything for, 20 minutes, I will say. But I will try to cut it up together, even though we didn't say a lot. Yeah. I will try to cut it up together as best we could, because it was really, really good. Yeah. And it's, obviously this is one of those episodes you really can't make too many jokes out of. Yeah. Like we can in the 70s or even in just another episode. But honestly, mainly the reason that we weren't saying anything was because it was just that good. And honestly, I will admit to getting a little teary-eyed at some of this stuff, So
I was kind of fascinated to realize that I did say when the doctor was opening up the container, when I said, is it people? Because that's essentially, it was their soul, it was their essence, whatever you want to call it. But they were, collecting all of these people so that they could be honored. That's a fascinating story idea.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, and then even, after the wedding, and Umbreen is talking, thanking Banish for everything that he did, and he's still, I do kind of like that it's it's not a happy ending, really. Yes, eventually Umbreen did move out to Sheffield, did find, another husband, and, eventually had a lovely family and had Yaz and everything, and did lead a happy life, but there is still the tragedy of Prem and Manish and their family. So yeah, even after everything, he still walks away and, calls in the thugs and everything. And eventually that leads to Prem's death, unfortunately. But at the very least, at the very least, the Thajarians were there to honor his death, which is, honestly, that is a nice thing to think about. If there are these beings basically that would, even if you're alone, even if there's no one else there, they will make sure you're laid to rest.
And that's very similar to not only here in the United States but several other countries. It's like every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day, we talk about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers.
Yeah,
that these men died for their countries, so that others could live, and we have no idea who they are, but we have to honor their service, because without them we would not be here.
Yeah. So, you got anything else on this episode?
No, I have nothing.
All right. Well, honestly, still probably one of 13's best episodes. And honestly, yeah, all of her historical episodes are like this. There are a couple that maybe a bit more lighthearted. Actually, the next historical episode is 2 episodes later, and it's that Witchfinder episode I told you about, where it's we have to find witches, and Alan Cumming is here as King James and everything. And it's a bit of a goofier episode, but even that is still pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, technically that is the end of our modern rewatches, or modern watch it. We're not rewatching. Well, I'm rewatching these, I guess. But you have now met the 5 modern doctors. So I guess we could just ask which one of these 5 would be your favorite.
Well, that's kind of hard to say because I like them all.
Yeah. This is exactly what I say when people ask me.
I will say that because of the newness of it, of the 5 episodes now that we've seen, based on what I know vaguely of each of them, I have to say I'm really kind of fond of Eccleston. Because, again, that was just a very interesting take on, here's his ancient enemy, and he's got to figure out, and then again, maybe it was just the writing of that, when the old Dalek says, "You would have made a great Dalek."
Yeah.
But they're all wonderful in their own way. I'm looking forward to 2 or 3 years from now when I start through them with all of them with you. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, it is. I mean, it's not a great question for me to ask you because even I still struggle. At this point, I've kind of nailed it down to my favorite actors are kind of between David Tennant and Peter Capaldi. But the interesting thing is, I think actually that David Tennant has better writing most of the time. Like, it's more consistent, good writing than Capaldi ever got. But I have said, if Capaldi had that writing, I think I might put Capaldi at the top. I thought he was really, really good.
Well, again, based on the 5 episodes that I've seen, although, again, I love the storyline of Matt Smith and the Doctor's wife. Again, it's based on the actor's performance in that episode. I thought Eccleston had more to do than, and again, Jodie Whittaker, very good here, but she wasn't the focus of this episode.
Yeah.
The other characters were. Whereas he was the focus of that episode, where he said, I literally have to confront my past, and what am I going to do about it now? So.
Right. Well, and that's also an interesting thing, especially in this first season with Jodie Whittaker's. They do kind of go back almost to the Doctor being more of a side character, like with the first Doctor, where it is more about the team than on the Doctor and her companions. So for an episode of the 13th Doctor, it's a really great episode, but it doesn't give a whole lot of the 13th Doctor herself. So now we have one more rewatch to do with the 3rd Doctor, which will be the 3 Doctors, which we'll get to at the start of season 10. So I've kind of talked online about, do we keep doing modern episodes while we do rewatches? And the idea that we've kind of come up with is maybe we'll go ahead and do one more, because we only have one more Pertwee episode to rewatch. And then after that, when we get into Tom Baker, we'll just rewatch those episodes, and that'll be that. So, because of that now, I have to think of what one episode from these 5 Doctors do I now show you. And I have one in mind, and someone suggested it. It's called The Girl in the Fireplace, and it is actually my favorite Doctor Who episode, so we might go with that one.
And which Doctor is it?
That is the 10th Doctor, specifically.
Yeah, now see, in The Waters of Mars, Tennant was a real jerk in that one.
Yes.
Now, and that's the thing. I've seen bits and pieces of him on late night TV here, so I know he's much better than that. In that particular episode, though, it's like, geez, Doc, lighten up. Yeah, well,
yes, there were moments like that. I remember when we put out that episode that I got a bit of criticism because I was sort of the one. I kind of chose it along with the schedule maker, but it's not exactly the best of the 10th Doctor, because that was going into his whole Time Lord Victorious. He was trying to bend time to his will, and then eventually that sort of leads into more character arc through the succeeding episodes. So going further back for that, for The Girl in the Fireplace will probably be a better episode for the 10th Doctor overall. So yeah. Well, I've already asked if you had anything else.
I got nothing, and yet we talked for another 10 minutes.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Yeah, it happens. So, that is pretty much it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of Dad's modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as a playlist for all of our classic Doctor Who reactions. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.